A victory of sorts today for users of medical marijuana. The Harper government wanted approved growers by April 1st to throw out their growing equipment, any plants or harvested pot, and to prove it, or else the feds would send the RCMP after them. Today, Judge Michael Manson granted an application for a temporary injunction to preserve the status quo until a constitutional challenge of the new system can be heard. And joining us for more on this, Sandra Colasanti and Jason Wilcox, both with MMAR Coalition Against Repeal, and MMAR stands for Marijuana for Medical Purposes Regulations. Thanks for joining us. Jason, tell us what your story is. You are authorized to grow and use marijuana?
I've been authorized for 10 years under the old Medical Marijuana Access regulations to grow for myself personally, and have done so for 10 years, farm my own strains. And
I hope I'm not asking too much, but why do you need it?
I'm immunocompromised. I have been for 20 years. I was growing before there was a federal program, and when I could conform to the law, I did, and I'm really glad with today's ruling, quite frankly.
No doubt. What does, how do you consume the marijuana?
Both. I use edibles as well, mostly edibles, and as well as I smoke on a regular basis.
And what does it do for you?
It relieves everything. I mean, it's replaced my Stimatil, it's replaced oxycodone, it's replaced, again, these appetite stimulants that they need. When you take antiretroviral treatment, it can make you very sick in the morning. So just to take my meds in the morning, sometimes I need to medicate, or not, sorry, after to take my meds, as well as to be able to brush my teeth, I need to medicate. And that's where cannabis comes into quality of life issues for me in my personal life. But I mean, I'm 20 years terminal. So, I mean, it's been more than 19 years now.
What do you mean when you say you're 20 years terminal?
I'm 20 years terminal with HIV.
Meaning you have 20 years left to live, or you've been living with it?
I've been living with it for 20 years. I've been growing 19 of which I was introduced to cannabis after I was put on a host of medications that made me very sick, and I was dealing with inflammation. I was on a whole cocktail of pills that just had me gobsmacked on the couch, and I was introduced to cannabis before there was ever a federal program, and found that it worked, and it got me off all those pills. I take the pills that I take to stay alive that are prescribed to me, and that's it. And cannabis covers everything else.
Okay. Sandra, you are not a user. Your husband is. Tell me what his story is.
He broke his back. Well, he had a car accident, back injury, or broke his back and broke his neck in a second accident. And he was a concrete finisher. And basically, he was on a host of pharmaceutical drugs. And
pain relievers.
Pain relievers.
Strong ones.
Strong ones. And was told he could no longer, be in that industry. And then he found that this was working for him because he was getting ulcers from the medications. He had gone through all the different drugs, because at that time you had to have used up all the other types of drugs before they would even allow you to go. And he actually had a Section 56, which was before the existing
There's been a lot of
program.
regulation around this, hasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he a pot user before?
Yes, but not significantly, not a lot, and doesn't drink alcohol. So it was kind of one of those things that was his preferred choice at the time.
Yeah. Now, Jason, this court injunction today really stops what was going to be, what most people were suggesting was a fairly heavy-handed move by Health Canada.
Absolutely. It would have caused irreparable harm to medical patients in this country in such a way that 18 months ago we started a campaign with the coalition to fund this matter and to look into explore what our options were, because we could see then there was going to be damage if you just up and remove gardens. Worst part about it was a scarlet letter of fire, mold, and organized crime that, quite frankly, through the injunction, we learned was anecdotal in nature. And
these are the allegations that it's dangerous for you to grow your own marijuana. There's mold. There's potential for fire. And
ridiculous.
Then, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of talk about the system being rife with issues, though. And I mean, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I'm aware of people who don't have a medicinal license, who buy their marijuana from medicinal growers for recreational use.
We're not saying that there isn't issues with the program, and we're saying we want regulation, but at the same time, like the judge said, is that Health Canada could have prevented all of this by having inspections. And in fact, John Conway...
But they don't have the money to inspect. I mean, how many people in Canada are licensed to grow marijuana for medical?
I would use the analogy, though, too, that we look at how many drunk drivers and people on pills right now are going out driving drunk and killing people. We police the drunk drivers. We don't throw all the cars off the road. And that's what they were trying to do with the patients. And I'm glad that justice stepped in and interfered and allowed the Constitution to have a chance to put the MMPR under constitutional scrutiny.
Right. Had either of you started throwing gear away or dismantling your grows or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
We were getting prepared to, you know, do a burning.
Yeah. Were you concerned about the RCMP showing up at your door?
Yes, because of my husband's pretty high profile, and so yeah, we were concerned about it. We have a child, and I don't want my son to ever go through that experience.
Would he have given up the marijuana had the rule come into effect on April 1st?
Growing yet?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. We wouldn't have had a choice.
Would you?
For myself, I would, again, I would not conform to the proposed, as long as it was being challenged before the courts, I wouldn't conform to it. I do have my own 14-year-old daughter and have sole custody and full guardianship of her, so of course, any decisions that I would make, I certainly wouldn't want to make public.
Does she smoke pot?
No, of course not. No, but she actually is very proud of her dad being a social activist that has now prevented many of sick and dying Canadians and disabled from having to potentially rely on corner street drug dealers for their medication.
Okay, so we know the Harper government is not happy about this. We know they're going to have a look at this ruling. And we know what they really want to do is get Canadians out of the business of growing their own marijuana. So where do you see this going, Jason?
Personally, I would hope to see it going towards the way of Uruguay or Colorado, where we don't see fire, we don't see mold, we don't see gangsters. The only thing we see a problem with is the supply, and I think that'll catch up as the market stabilizes itself. We need a free and fair market that the people can work with. The cannabis culture for years has evolved. Strain-specific stuff, cannabinoid profile, stuff that the government's just not looking at. I mean, even under the MMPR, they're still saying no extractions, but yet Sanjay Gupta shows a baby that stops seizuring.
That was really quite remarkable for people who don't know. The doctor on CNN, Sanjay Gupta, has publicly declared he's changed his mind. He used to be against marijuana for medical purposes, and now he's very much for it. Really quickly, because we only have a few seconds left, you're going to take this all the way to the...
You bet we are.
Supreme Court? Is that where you're headed?
Yeah, Supreme Court of Canada.
You now have to do a constitutional challenge.
Right. If the Crown decides to appeal, which we expect they will, then it would then go to the Supreme Court.
I'd pretty much bank on that. Jason Wilcox, Sandra Colasanti, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.